So, the developers have recently made a new event within Roblox which notifies people when the next update drops and what it's going to be about. And they've released the Hacker Tower. Well, they're going to release the Hacker Tower in v1.66.0. The recent update is going to be v1.65.0. Again, based on the fact that the developers are going to a bi-weekly update schedule, it looks like this is going to be released on the 11th of June, and it's going to last a week. But I don't think the developers are going to release anything for that week, so I don't know why it's lasting a week. Anyways, from this thumbnail, it looks like, firstly, we get a drone. Yes, that's the one thing that people wanted from the Hacker Tower, because when the Hacker Tower was first released, it was released with a drone. This is what it looks like. The drones seen here, they have 4 propellers and some eye-looking thingies. They're probably actually lights. But here, they do have the 4 propellers, but they don't have the eyes. Now, interestingly, this looks like the max level, or at least this looks like the max level and this looks like the level below. Then again, though, this is holding a smartphone and this is holding a laptop. I consider a laptop to be more expensive and more advanced than a phone, you know? Like, imagine hacking on a phone and then imagine hacking on a laptop. In movies, you always see them hacking on laptops. Now, this looks like, it has something that looks like a hard hat, I can't lie, but this also has knee pads as well. So, actually, maybe this is the more advanced version. I don't know. Or, there's an ability where you can swap between the laptop and you can swap between the smartphone. But more on that later. So, this blue version here has a laptop, looks like it's hacking through a laptop, then it has this drone thingy. It also has the drone thingy, and it looks like it can hack enemies. As you can see here, this enemy looks hacked, this enemy looks hacked, but it doesn't have the hacked thing above it. And these enemies looked hacked. Now, actually, I just realised this blue version here is quite similar to this version here. It's got the scarf, it's got the, well, this had a hat, this has a hood, and the glasses here more nerdy than the glasses seen here. But it does have the trench coat as seen here, has the trench coat ported over, and then it's got the boots here and the boots here. Very cool. And I wonder if this is a reference to this original image, given the fact there are 2 drones here, and it's not exactly kneeling down, but it is on its laptop. Now, if we actually read the description of the Hacker Tower update, it says, meet the hacker, mid-range, area of effect tower that bounces foes back to spawn. So, area of effect tower means that it's something akin to at least the Gladiator. It doesn't say explosive tower, so we're going to have to assume that it's something like the Gladiator or the Shotgunner, which deals area of effect means that the damage is dealt over an area, so that would classify the Gladiator, the Shotgunner, and like the Demo Man as part of that. But also, it can bounce foes back to spawn. Now, I'm not entirely sure what bounce enemies back to spawn could be about. So here, it looks like they've hacked the enemy, and based on what it's being said here, hacking the enemy seems like it spawns them back to the very start of the game, which could be very OP when it comes to bosses, but I'm very sure that bosses would probably have an immunity, which is like a hacker bounce back immunity that doesn't allow them to be completely moved back to the back. But then it can still be very OP against enemies that aren't bosses. So, for example, I'm thinking of the Fallen Honor Guard, the Fallen Guardians even, and like Nuclear Guardians in the Polluted Wastelands 2 map. And then there's some other things, like in hardcore mode you get the Vindicators, which could be sent back to spawn, which I don't think that's actually better, because it's mostly about the Void Reaver, and sending them back to spawn means they're not first anymore, so they'll be able to stun more towers with its annoyingly OP Thor hammer. Now, from here, it doesn't look like it has any weapons whatsoever. Then we have siphons resources into your eco, meaning economy. So what? This hacker is hacking bank accounts from American citizens and then siphoning the funds into rewarding your account. I mean, from that, it looks like maybe you're stealing income from other players and then siphoning into your account so you can invest more into, say, higher expensive towers. But I'm not entirely sure how that would work. But it would be funny if this is like a friendly fire tower, which could be used for trolling, where you can siphon the funds from other players from like stealing all the cash that you get from damaging an enemy just for yourself, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, I have all the cash, let me just upgrade all of my towers real quick. That would be totally unfair, and I don't think it would ever happen because that would make friendships break, I can't lie. Then it also has instantly clones your strongest towers for unmatched DPS and utility, which means, based on this, actually, when I said this has a hard hat and everything, it looks a little bit like the Engineer. And I can't lie, this might be one of these clone thingies, which means that actually the tower placement limit for certain towers could be extended by this. So, 2 versions of the Gatling gun plus a hacker tower. Maybe that is a good idea. Also, instantly clones your strongest towers for unmatched DPS and utility. This means that the towers with the lower placement limits can be buffed through this way, meaning that because the towers with lower placement limits tend to be more powerful, per tower, this means that the Hacker Tower essentially boosts these towers quite significantly. Now from this, it looks like it has 3 abilities. Mid-range Aero Effect Tower, which bounces foes back to spawn, siphons resources into your eco, instantly clones your strongest towers. Where have we seen 3 abilities before? Oh wait, the Trapper, Spike, Landmine, Bear Trap. The Biologist, Sunflower, Ivy, Nightshade. The DJ Booth, purple, red, and green tracks. I'm not saying that it's confirming that there's going to be swappable abilities for the Hacker Tower, but the Jester does have 4 abilities and the Elementalist does have 2 abilities, so could be reading too much into it. However, these inscriptions does seem like that the Hacker can somehow swap between the 3 abilities depending on your needs. Because there's no way such a tower can have all 3 abilities at once. That I think would be too OP unless the tower itself in each task was quite bad. Therefore, I think there's a possibility that you can swap between abilities, which could be what's been going on here. Someone swapping between the green and the red. Did I call this green? Oh my god, this is blue. Blue. Yes, I'm not colorblind. Now, I would be interested to see if there's any abilities or any limit on what tower it can clone. So, in my mind, the best tower combined with the Hacker Tower would be the Gatling Gun. However, you can't control that. I mean, yeah, you can control it. You control one or the other, but you can't control both at the same time. That's not how it works. We have tried this before in the Halloween event in 2024, and you can only control one at a time. You don't control all of them. But given the fact that the Gatling Gun currently right now, at the time of recording this video, it might change in the next update, where the DPS is around 700 just on its own, this means that potentially you could have another 700 DPS tower, at least from the description of this, instantly clones your strongest towers, assuming that it's going to clone only one. The Gatling Gun potentially could be cloned once for another 700 DPS tower, and given the fact that it doesn't look like you have to buy it, effectively that means 400,000 for what? 1.5k DPS? Actually, thinking about it, it's not actually too great. Then again though, 2 towers with 700 DPS, that could be a good shout. Another good shout could potentially be the turret, 430 DPS, very long range at 26, 55 damage, 105,000. Placement limit of 3, but the Hacker Tower could potentially boost it up to 4, meaning that you could potentially have 4 turrets that's worth around 1.2k DPS. Actually close to 1.3k DPS, and for the turret, that's actually quite good. As I mentioned previously, towers with a low placement limit tend to benefit more from, well, they will benefit more from a Hacker Tower cloning them, purely because they have a low placement limit as they're powerful per unit. Now, I wonder if the developers would mess around with placement limits after this update, purely because the placement limits for towers that they currently have right now are imposed purely because the game would be unbalanced otherwise, and having a Hacker Tower which can bypass this tower placement limit may be slight cause for concern for the developers, but we'll have to see what they do. Yeah, imagine having an extra tower to clone, and then you choose like the Scout of all towers, or even the Sniper. That would be brilliant. I also assume that you can choose the tower that you can clone. Imagine if it's just a random tower in the range of the Hacker that is randomly cloned, and it's the Commander Tower that's cloned. I mean, like, sure, having 4 commanders within range of all your towers isn't so bad. And you do get another ability to support Caravan. I don't know if the cloning tower or the clone tower will have the ability to spawn in APCs, or if the clone tower actually has any abilities. But it's still, I mean, for the commander, it won't be as powerful as cloning, say, the minigunner or the ranger. And I wonder what happens if there's, like, no space for any tower in range. Unless it's a tower that you select, and then you all of a sudden have the ability to place down that tower and upgrade it fully. That, I think, is more likely to happen, so it doesn't make things too OP. So you can't just buy another Gatling Gun, or you can't have just 2 Gatling Guns for 228,000 cash. So, yeah, I think it's more likely that you get to clone a tower, but you have to place it down and you have to upgrade it all again. Good for bypassing tower limits, not so for the Gatling Gun, which, as of right now, currently a bit not cost efficient. Also, that would mean that the Hacker Tower probably needs to have like an expensive placement limit, something akin to the DJ booth, which is 1,200 to place down. Because like, imagine placing it down in hardcore mode. I assume there's also going to be a hardcore tower that you have to purchase with gems. Imagine if this is a cheap tower that you can place down and you can clone a tower. That will be quite OP in hardcore mode, because like early on, like the range is like one of the best towers, but you can probably only afford 1 at a time. I mean, like, unless it's the ability where I stated before, where you can select a tower, but you can then place down that tower again and it ignores any placement limits, which I think is the best way to balance around instantly cloning towers. Then again, it doesn't really fit the description. Instantly clone your towers, your strongest towers even. I speculate that the Hacker Tower will probably have a placement limit of 1, given its support abilities and the fact that it can clone towers. So having more than 1 hackers means that all of a sudden, if you have like 5 hackers as a 5 placement limit, it means all of a sudden, oh wait, 5 turrets that you can spawn in with like the ability. That's like 200, well no, not even that, 1,000 more DPS. It's 200 per Hacker Tower. In fact, I'm wrong. The turret has 428. No, you're looking at 2,000 DPS at like bare minimum. Yeah, no, I think the Hacker Tower, maybe a placement limit of 2, given the fact there's 2 hackers here, or, you know, it could be from 2 separate people. But there is going to definitely be a tower placement limit for the Hacker Tower. I'm thinking 1 or 2, maybe 3.